Oh, dear. Oh, look at the kitty.
Okay, I think we'll get going. Good evening and welcome to the Monday, May 18th meeting of the Winchester Select Board. My name is Michael Betancourt and I serve as chair. With me tonight is our vice chair, Susan Verdicchio, select board member Jackie Welch, select board member Mariano Goluboff. I don't know if I see Amy there. There's a lot of people on my screen, but I do see town manager Lisa Wong and Beth Rudolph, our town engineer. Our upcoming meetings right now, Monday, June 1st is our next one, and we're going to start right into our agenda because we have a scheduled public hearing at 7 p.m. So, Beth, are you ready to do this if I open the hearing?
Hi, this is Beth. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I can. So I'll open up the public hearing on the Eversource grant of location to install 25 feet of conduit within the public right-of-way to provide underground electrical service to 18 Wedgemere Avenue.
Great. So as you said, we have a grant location petition from Eversource to install approximately 25 feet of conduit in the right-of-way on Wedgemere Avenue. The work will require repair to the town-owned sidewalk and is necessary to provide underground service to the home at 18 Wedgemere Avenue. Engineering and DPW have reviewed it, and we find it to be acceptable. So we have no issues going forward.
Okay. Any questions from members of the audience regarding this specific grant of location request? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for any questions or comments from members of the select board. Seeing none, I'll take a motion for the grant of location.
So I move that the select board approves Eversource's grant of location to install approximately 25 feet of conduit within the public right-of-way to provide underground electrical service to 18 Wedgemere Avenue.
Second.
I'll take a roll call vote. All in favor, Susan?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Mariano?
Yes.
And I don't see Amy yet, and yes, for me, the motion carries 4-0 unanimously. And next on our agenda is another public hearing regarding a MWRA grant of location request to install 200 feet of new 48-inch water main on Eugene Drive between section 4300 and station 45 and 50 to install 300 feet of new 48-inch water main on Eugene Drive between station 45 and 50 and 48 and 50. And this work is necessary to replace approximately 10,500 feet of existing 48-inch diameter water main in Winchester, Stoneham, and Woburn.
Thank you. Do you want me, I can give you a brief update or overview, and then I believe there are some folks here from the MWRA that can go into a little bit more detail if you'd like. I think the MWRA was in front of the board, gosh, probably in early March at this point, to kind of give an overview of the big picture here. And now they're just before the board for this grant location. So there's a section, they're doing a large water main replacement project that goes through several communities. In Winchester, it comes down Forest Street. And right now it goes through several private properties on Eugene Drive, and they've made the decision to move it out of the private property easements and move it into the street on Eugene Drive and then connect it back into Forest Street. So that's why they're applying for this grant location, because they're moving from an area that is currently on private property out into the public way on Eugene Drive. So as you mentioned, it's approximately 250 feet of new 48-inch water main on Eugene Drive between stations 43 and 43 plus 50, and then another 300 feet of new 48-inch water main between stations 45 plus 50 and 48 plus 50. And from there, I'll turn it over, or sorry, I should say that engineering and DPW have reviewed and we have no concerns. And from there, I'll turn it over to the folks at the MWRA in case they have any additional comments they'd like to make.
Good evening.
Hello.
I'm Patrick Barrett. I'm with the MWRA. I am the project manager for this project. As Beth points out, this goes to multiple communities. It's about 10,500 feet long. It is a replacement of an existing 48-inch main of 4,000 feet in Stoneham, 2,000 feet in Winchester, and another 4,000 feet up in Woburn, going through the Craft property. As Beth points out, we're here for a grant of location. We are actually looking to move our pipe in this case, as she stated, out of some private properties where it runs straight through their yards and get into the right-of-ways. That's, in summary, the project. I'm not sure if there are any other questions or concerns from residents. We have been to the Concom. We have a draft order of conditions from the Concom on these purposes. I'll take any questions at this point if you have.
Hi, yes, I do. My name is Sir Kwan. I'm the property owner on 10 Eugene Drive. And I see that they're marking the location of the pipe where it makes a turn off of Eugene down into the drainage that runs off the fells that was put in originally by the Army Corps of Engineers. I believe, I'm not sure now, I believe that's right on the edge of the property or right near the end of the property, of my property actually. And I don't know if they moved it over more enough where it's on private public lands or not, but I believe that it's coming through the front property line where all the trees are. And I believe that they're going to, it looks like they're marking down the big pine trees that they're going to take down. And I believe they're on my property, but I'm not exactly sure because I didn't have a chance to look at it. They just put the markings up probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago that I'm aware of. So I just want to know if that is still on the property of my property, or if that's totally off the property, because I believe it's coming through the middle of the property, actually near the edge.
So yes,
So
Mr. Kwan, the short answer is yes. Where the pipe currently exists, it runs straight through your driveway in the front of your house. There is an existing easement. Our
Yes.
proposed new alignment is to get it, instead of bisecting your property, we are going to go through the edge of your property, is our proposal. So we actually turn out of the wetlands, come back up to Eugene Drive and get into Eugene Drive. We are absolutely still on your property. And those trees on that alignment for where the new pipe goes will be coming down. We have met with the Winchester Concom. This is part of the wetlands. So actually the wetlands, the Concom has jurisdiction over this. We have made an agreement with the Concom and we've been dealing with Town of Winchester tree warden for the purposes of replacing trees that we take down on the alignment, some in the wetlands, some in the public right of way. So we will be doing tree replacement for the community. And to that end, how can I say, we don't typically contact individual private property owners until we're well established on what we're doing and we've received, I should say, go-aheads from other public venues. So you are at the point now where we have the 100% plans, we're receiving approvals from the town, from the communities, and we would be approaching you as well as many other people along the alignment that we have to change. The Maeve Apartments is actually in Stoneham where we're looking to approach them shortly also. So the short answer is yes, those trees will be coming down. We will be more than happy to do some tree replacement, even on your property, for the purpose of replacing trees. We actually are looking to replace trees. The benefit to you, at least from our point of view, is that rather than that easement that runs straight through your property, we will be unencumbering that property down the road in order to eliminate that pipe. It will be taken out of service and it will no longer be an easement through your property.
Would it help if I share my screen so to maybe show a picture of what we're talking about?
Sure.
Oh, host disabled participant screen sharing, it says. So maybe I can't. Unless Mr. Betancourt, would you be able to enable me to share my screen?
I think the town manager is actually running that function right now. I don't
Okay.
have the ability.
Gina,
Yes.
is this Gina? This is
Yes.
Patty. Is this the same map that you sent us?
Yes, it's with the GOL response. If you can
Okay.
bring that up and turn to one of the sheets, I can tell you the sheet number.
Okay, I will.
Do you want to just try again now? I clicked the
Sure.
button. See if that works.
Yeah, that works. So hopefully you can see this.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so this yellow line is what's the first part of the grant of location request. Mr. Kwong, your house is down here, sort of at the bottom of my screen, number 10, correct? This is the driveway, if you can see
yes.
this driveway. Okay.
Mhm.
Currently, the pipe is here. Cutting.
That's correct.
Yep, cutting across your yard, your driveway, your neighbor's driveway and yard.
That's
We're
correct.
bringing the pipe straight up here
Mhm.
and into the road directly that way.
Mhm.
So the trees I believe you're concerned most with are these up here, these couple of 16-inch trees.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're talking about. It is a 48-inch diameter pipe. So in order to get that pipe in the ground, it's a pretty big hole. So even though they might seem, far enough apart to be able to get the pipe in there, we'd be cutting right through the roots with the size excavation we're talking about. So the concern would be, the life of the tree following the work.
All right. And that's what I thought. I measured it, and it's about like 12 feet between the trees, which is, like I'm not a construction expert or anything like that. But is there an option to move it just a little bit further up the road, up? So there's a line of five trees, all the same diameter, along that line.
To this direction?
Like further up, yeah. To the left, yeah.
So I can't really answer that right now, but what I'm looking at is the fact that we've got an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission to cross this stream right here, which is a very complex type of permit that we've obtained. So changing too much over here, up here, is going to change all of this. So we would probably have to revisit the permit that we already have in hand.
I mean, I know you guys are has acquired the necessary permits and all that. My biggest concern is actually those trees, number one, and then number two is so there's a line of 5 trees there, and basically it creates like a barrier to viewing down that. If you look at it, it's a big slope that goes right down into where the water is. So without that, it kind of like detracts some of the character of the street, because the street, when you look down at it, you see these huge pine trees all lined up, and they look really nice. And as the street curves, up along the road, now there's gonna be like this big void area that that the 2 big trees have been gone. So that's why I sent a comment saying, well, maybe they could take the last tree down. But
Over
it sounds like
here.
you guys are, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
This is, 5 of them, yep.
Yeah, it's not a really straightforward. It's not just that easy to move the pipe. It is quite a complex design.
Yeah, no, I know that. Yes.
But like Mr. Barrett had indicated, we do typically offer replication in some way, shape, or form for some of these things. So we, could potentially try to work with arborists to figure out what could be planted far enough away from the pipe to still provide maybe some sort of screening, but not jeopardize the maintenance of the water main itself.
Gina, I would agree with you. That would be our best workaround for this. The trees as they are in the construction route won't survive. Even if we try to preserve them, they will ultimately, we're going to cut the roots and they're going to fall haphazardly in the wrong time, in the wrong place. we would be willing to work with, I should say, we're going to work with the local tree warden and Concom and everybody else involved in this. And I'd be more than happy to replace something in that area that, you know, Cyril, Mr. Kwan, that you could be part of the discussion as far as I'm concerned to change the barrier, but I would be opposed to replacing trees with large trees that would ultimately impact our pipe and what would be our future easement for where the pipe goes. But we could, you know, work with and I'm willing to work with the local tree warden and come up with some sort of middle of the road solution in order to help you in this situation.
Mr. Barrett, would it be appropriate for us to grant the location subject to your agreement to work with Mr. Kwong and the tree warden moving forward?
Well, the grant of location is for actually in the street. It's actually, I don't think the grant of location necessarily actually covers the wetlands area for this. That said, if you want to put something in the grant of location that says the MWA shall continue to work with the community for this purpose, I'm going to say yes. I'm not going to say no.
Mr. Kwong, is that satisfactory to you?
Yes, I think that'd be satisfactory as long as there's a statement in there saying, either they try to replace some trees or maybe even, erect a fence to make it more contiguous from that property line. Because, like I said, without that, there's going to be a big void area there that's going to kind of detract from the character of the street. So whether it be, several trees, that won't impact the pipe, of course, and or like a different, like a higher fence or something like that that makes it look evenly as you look up the street, that there's not this huge void area. Because without those trees, what happened is a lot of kids tend to like go down into that area because it's just a big flat empty area. And with the trees there, if they drive up and down the street, they don't see it. But without that, it's just going to be inviting people to go down there. So that's one of my biggest concerns.
All right. Well, to that end, Mr. Kwon, one of the things you bring up is this is your property.
Mm-hmm.
And to the end where you mentioned putting a fence on your property along that way, I don't want to put in $1 million fence.
No.
But for the purposes of putting something on your property as part of our construction that closes off that easement area from what I'll say easy access, I think that's something that we could work with without a problem. It has to be temporary in nature. It would have to be something that, should there ever be an emergency, obviously would have to be able to remove. I wouldn't want to build a retaining wall or concrete blocks or anything over us, but a simple wooden fence or something along the lines would be willing to work with that.
Yeah, I think
I was going to say there is a wooden guardrail there, so we could, which is probably not going to survive construction either. So we'll have to replace that, and maybe we can just work together to figure out what will work, along this whole little stretch here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think definitely a fence, like I say, a fence right now. After you're done with the construction, a fence to kind of close it off, and then maybe some trees later on that would grow like over the fence, but not impact your drainage pipe. So you can see the trees there. That makes it look more even, I guess.
I think, Mr. Kwan, we can work with a long-term solution here. As a point on this, though, so this is a 10,000 foot long project. This is also 42 months of construction. So the work in this area itself, we're going to start construction with any luck somewhere in the September timeframe of this year. All our work will be in Woburn for the most part the first year of this contract. You won't see us into this location until the second year of the contract, so basically 2022. We actually won't complete this project till 2023 as for the whole thing and come back and be doing the restoration in these areas. So we're not going away. We're going to be here for a long time, and I'm sure we can work with you to come up with some solution for that area.
Okay, sounds good.
Mr.
Thank
Barrett. We'll make sure that information is exchanged between the two of you. Are there any other questions or comments on this request for a grant of location? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And do any members of the board have any questions or comments?
Yeah, so my question is Forest Street going to be at any time closed completely, or is it always going to have at least one lane open while work is being done?
We're working with the police, the local communities, the fire department. I don't want to make any promises only because of where we're going. Our goal is to maintain one lane in either bi-directional police details on either end, or one lane going in a certain direction with detours around it on the other side. But that is our goal, and that's what we're working with the local community for.
Okay, so I just want to make sure also that, if the lane that remains open is not the lane that is on the south side of the street, what is currently the eastbound lane, that the neighbors that live on Keenan Drive, which is a cul-de-sac, are notified well ahead of time so that they can get their vehicles out if necessary prior to closing down their access.
So yes, to that end, all of our construction, it's a pipeline project. We will be in front of there, and we will work with all the residents for notification. Once we hire the contractor, we will be looking to have a local meeting with all the communities. We'll have a schedule that will say, here's our schedule for what the time frame is. And then prior to actual construction on forestry, whatever's going to have to take place there would be notification to all property owners in the area that on a given week, we'll be starting construction at 7 to 3, and there will be limited access. That said, we will always allow access to any fire, police, emergency, any other type of any vehicle that needs to get in and out of there on a moment's notice. There will be a detail officer there available to get them through no matter what. So that's will be taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the board? I'll take a motion to approve the grant of location subject to Mr. Kwong working with the MWRA and Mr. Barrett on a resolution of the fence and tree removal.
So I move that the board approves the MWRA's grant of location to install 250 feet of new 48-inch water main on Eugene Drive between station 43+00 and station 45+50, and to install 300 feet of new 48-inch water main on Eugene Drive between station 45+50 and 48+50. This work is necessary to replace approximately 10,500 feet of existing 48-inch diameter water main. And the MWRA shall continue to work with the community abutting property owners, including Mr. Cyril Kwong and the tree warden, for the purposes of replacing trees or taking other measures to provide screening in the area.
Second.
All in favor? I'll take a roll call vote. Jackie?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes?
Mariano?
Yes.
And I see Amy Shapiro there as well. Sorry, we didn't see you there initially, Amy.
That's okay. Yes.
Yes. And yes, for me, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Kwong. So we will jump around a little bit on our agenda based on some that are attending our meeting. So we'll go to business item 2, the human rights statement. I see many members of the Network for Social Justice here. I'm not sure if there's anyone in particular who is going to present on the request.
we didn't decide that, but I'm one of the, okay, sorry. Am I unmuted?
No, we can hear you.
Okay. Hello?
We can hear you.
We can hear you, Phil. I'm not sure if you or Karen or Wei wants to just give us a little bit of background on the request.
I'm happy to do that. You each have a letter, I think, which really clarifies our appreciation for the role of immigrants in dealing with the COVID-19 crisis that's all around us and affecting us in so many ways. And you're also aware that there are certain folks who blame certain parts of the world or certain people from parts of the world as being the cause of this problem or exacerbating the problem, rather than focusing on the extraordinary contributions in healthcare and in first responders and in nursing home care provided by disproportionately by people who were born in foreign countries. So the network would love, and many people in this town actually are very supportive of immigrant justice issues, many of the faith communities. And the idea is to send a message that we have the greatest respect, and the last thing we want to have it happening in our community is for immigrants not to feel appreciated as a core part of our community. And we think the select board has thoughtfully identified groups in the past through the human rights statement and behavioral characteristics in the human rights statement that that merit explicit non-discrimination support, and that's comforting to those groups. And many people in different of those groups over the years have told us that it makes a difference when there's an official acknowledgement that their perspective, their origins, their behavioral choices are widely respected by the leadership of the town. So we think adding these, just adding the words country of origin and immigration status would send a wonderful signal that we're a welcoming community, not just for people to live here, but to shop here and to visit here.
Great, thank you, Phil. I don't know if there are other comments from members of the Network for Social Justice, anything to be added there?
I couldn't hear you, but.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Is that?
Yes, clearly, thank you.
Okay. I don't know if there are any other comments from members of the Network for Social Justice or questions from the members of the Select Board.
Mr. Chairman, if there are no questions from anybody, as I believe the only member of the board that is affected by adding country of origin to the statement, I would like to make a motion. I move that this board amend the Winchester Human Rights Statement to read, Winchester is a community that is grounded in respect for every individual and therefore protects all residents, employees, business owners, students, and visitors in the enjoyment and exercise of human and civil rights. It is town policy to ensure equal treatment and an opportunity to all individuals regardless of race, gender identity, ethnicity, religion, ideology, socioeconomic status, health, sexual orientation, age, military status, disability, country of origin, or immigration status.
Great, thank you, Mariano. Was there a second there?
Second.
Okay, I'll take a roll call vote. All in favor, Jackie,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Mariano,
Yes.
and Amy.
Yes.
And yes, for me, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much to the members of the network for social justice for putting this together and to helping us with this. I think it's really, really important. Please feel free to leave or stay. I know that you had the first half hour of our meeting was probably a lot of fun for you, so there's plenty more of that. But please feel free to log off, and we'll hope to see you soon. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so
Thank
proud,
you,
I'm so
Network.
proud of this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much, Select Board. I'm so proud of our town. Thank you.
Me too. I'll leave.
Okay, at this point, we'll return back to the top of our agenda for the acceptance of donations. We've had quite a few come in, so section B of our agenda. I'll take motions to accept the 3 separate donations that are proposed.
So I move that we accept with gratitude donations in the amount of $9,250 from the Bonnell family, the Butler family, the Cabral and Conley families, and the Melconian and Vaughn families to support the Salt Marsh Park.
Second, and with appreciation.
I'll take a roll call vote. All in favor, Jackie,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes?
Mariano,
Yes.
and Amy.
Yes.
And yes, for me, the motion carries 5-0.
And I move that we accept with gratitude donations in the amount of $4,500 to the Council on Aging Transportation Support Account, $1,000 from the Winchester Cooperative Bank for the new initiative COVID-19 Senior Food Security, and $20 to the Council on Aging for the gift account.
Second.
I'll take a roll call vote. All in favor, Jackie,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes?
Mariano,
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
And yes, for me, the motion carries unanimously 5-0.
And I move that we accept with gratitude the gift from the Winton Club of a plaque to the town of Winchester to be placed in the entryway of the Chad Moore Auditorium at Town Hall as a recognition of the town's generosity in providing a venue for the Winton Club's annual cabaret for 100 years.
Second.
I'll take a roll call vote. All in favor, Jackie,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Mariano,
Yes.
and Amy.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you. Lisa, I don't know if we wanted to start into the town manager's report or if there was something else that we needed to get to.
Yeah, so let me get through the report. I was just corresponding with Mina. So Mina is going to join us for a discussion about remote town meeting. He's actually in Lexington Select Board meeting at the moment. So he said about 10 more minutes. So just going through the agenda, I want to start off with 2 appointments in the DPW. So in accordance with section 4-2B of the town charter, I've made the following promotional full-time appointments in the DPW Water and Sewer Division of Peter Decubellis of Woburn to W13 working foreman, and Max Meany of Winchester to W13 working foreman positions. And I request that the board vote to waive the usual 15-day appointment period.
So I move that we waive the customary 15-day waiting period for the promotions within the Water Sewer Division of the DPW for Peter Decubellis and Max Meany.
Yes. I mean, sorry, second. Sorry about that.
I'll take a roll call vote. Jackie,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Mariano,
Yes.
and Amy.
Yes.
And motion carries unanimously 5-0. Lisa, I see that Jay and Beth are here as well. Did we need to jump into anything for their input? I don't know. I didn't mean to cut off your report, but
Yep. So I'm assuming they're here for 1 and I don't think they're here for 5. So we can, if you want, we can jump into number 1, MS4 permit compliance.
Yeah, let's do that, I think, because I know Beth had a short timeline too.
Thank you. So I had provided a presentation. I think you guys were going to share it on the screen. Just to give everybody a little bit of background, we are completing year 2 of our MS4 permit requirements. It's gone well. We've been able to meet our permit requirements to date, and we will be requesting money at Springtown meeting for year 3. I have on the line also is Drew Schwartz from Weston and Sampson, who we had a presentation. I don't know if you guys are able to bring it up, that she was going to go through to kind of give a board an update on what we've been able to accomplish in the first 2 years of the permit, and what we'll be doing going forward from here. This sort of public participation and public input and kind of explanation of the permit requirements is part of our permit requirement, to make sure that people are informed as to what the permit is all about and what our requirements are, and to be able to answer questions and gather feedback from the public in this sort of setting. Great. So I'll let Jerice go through the slides, and I don't know who's controlling, but if you're able to advance the slides when it makes sense, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth, so much for inviting me here tonight to speak. And I also just want to say thanks to Beth and Brian and Jay and Jimmy for kind of really leading the charge with this effort and really keeping the town in compliance and working with us. So anyway, just to give everybody a little bit of background. So basically, and I know a lot of people are already very familiar with the permit, I'm sure. This permit's been around since 2003. Basically, it's an EPA issued permit that regulates stormwater discharges from the town's drainage system. The second iteration of the permit became effective back on July 1st, 2018. So as Beth said, we're kind of nearing the end of the second year of the permit, which ends on June 30th. And the permit, basically it's a 5-year permit cycle, but there are certain requirements under the permit that extend beyond the 5 years. Advance to the next slide there.
Are you able to advance it to the next slide?
Lisa, yeah, sorry. If you want to advance, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks.
So tonight we just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about what the town's been up to over the last 2 years. And just, like I said, provide a status update. So one of the big things that the town had to do initially in year 1 was develop a written stormwater management plan. And so that plan kind of outlines all of the permit requirements and talks about how the town plans to comply with the requirements, what they're going to do and when they're going to do it. And then also reports on progress to date. So it's kind of on a living document, and it really needs to be updated on an annual basis. And so we're actually working on updating it right now to document year 2 progress. The document that was compiled at the end of year 1 is currently posted to the town website. And like I said, we'll be updating that document shortly.
Just to jump in for a second, there's a link on the engineering department's website called MS4 Stormwater Permit where you can access that document. Next slide, please.
So there are basically what are called minimum control measures. These are the 6 main elements of the program where EPA believes that, change of behavior under these 6 elements will improve overall water quality. And so the first minimum control measure is public education and outreach. The town over the last couple of years has really kind of enhanced their existing stormwater website. There's currently specific messages on that website to different target audiences, looking at different behavior for different groups and how those can have kind of an overall improvement in water quality. I know the town has done some targeted mailings and press releases on various topics. Some of the topics they've been required to recover are like fertilizer use, disposal of leaf litter and grass clippings, making sure that doesn't end up in the town's waterways. Also a big initiative has been pet waste management. So hopefully many of you have seen some of these targeted messages already. Advance to the next slide, please.
Yeah, I'm pressing the arrow and it's
A
not
little bit of a, yeah.
not doing it. Let me see if I can share it a different way. Is it showing up?
No, unfortunately, it's a different slide. Yeah, for your updates.
Okay. How about that?
Yeah, back. Yep.
Okay, so slide this one.
So it's, yep, this is exactly, yep, where we
Okay,
left off.
great.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah, I downloaded it, so it was having trouble from my email. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the next minimum control measure is all about public participation and involvement, different events that the town is holding aimed at water quality improvements. The town obviously holds an annual hazardous waste collection day, participate in the Aberjona River cleanup, also was active in the Mystic River Watershed Association. And then also really allowing for an opportunity for the public to provide public review of the actual stormwater management plan and implementation of the town's overall program. And again, that's part of what tonight is about, getting information out to the public. And then, like Beth had said, also, the stormwater management plan is posted on the town's website so that, residents have an opportunity to review that plan and provide input as well. And of course, also the annual reports that get reported to EPA are also posted on the website, as well as a lot of other useful information. Advance. So please fix. So the third minimum control measure is illicit discharge detection and elimination. And this measure is all about finding illicit discharges to the town's drainage system, sources of stormwater pollution that are getting into the drainage system. And that could be coming from like a leaking sanitary sewer. It's all about trying to identify and remove those sources. So the town has been really progressive in mapping their drainage system. The permit requires the town to map all of their, basically their drain pipes, manholes, catch basins, outfalls. Outfalls are actually the discharge point where stormwater gets into receiving waters. So the town is, like I said, the town's really done a great job with this measure. The town has a very comprehensive map of their drainage system currently in place. The town also has a written illicit discharge and detection and elimination plan that kind of outlines how the town is going to go about identifying illicit discharges and removing those. And one thing related to the mapping too that the town has done recently is really looking at the contributing drainage area to each outfall that does discharge for receiving water, so that those drainage areas can be investigated as well to identify illicit discharges. Last fall, the town undertook a comprehensive dry weather outfall screening and sampling program. So basically, we helped the town by going out during a dry weather event and looking to see if there was any flow at the outfalls, and then sampling those flows to identify any evidence of an illicit discharge. So we got through all of that last fall, which has been great, and that helps kind of move the town's IDDE program forward. Right now, the town is undertaking investigation of catchments to kind of actually go back up into the drainage system and trying to isolate these sources of illicit discharge. And like I said before, it could be an instance where, the sanitary sewer could be leaking into the drainage system, and trying to identify kind of where those locations are so they can be removed. And then the town undertakes also annually basically training of municipal employees. So employees that are actually out in the field on a regular basis, providing guidance to them on how to identify illicit discharges that they might see on an everyday basis. Go ahead, Lisa, in advance. The fourth minimum control measure is basically construction site runoff control. So the town has actually been working to update their existing rules and regulations, making sure that developers and contractors follow certain requirements on site related to erosion and sediment control, having certain best management practices in place, also having requirements for waste control on site. And then the town has also actually developed internal procedures as well for site plan review and site inspection and enforcement, making sure that everybody that's reviewing different plans that come forward are looking for key items related to minimizing impacts to water quality, and then also making sure, you know, inspections are being done routinely as well. Can advance, Lisa. The next minimum control measure basically is about post-construction stormwater management. So again, the town is working to update their rules and regulations to comply with the requirements of the permit. You know, there are certain things that need to be put in place long-term for operation and maintenance of best management practices after construction. So making sure that systems are being maintained in the future and that they're not just constructed and then left there. And also making sure that certain basically treatment requirements are met, certain requirements for removal of total suspended solids, phosphorus removal requirements, also requiring compliance, full compliance with the stormwater management standards. So like I said, this has been an ongoing process that the town is working to kind of update their regs, and there'll be more coming forward in the future related to this as the town looks to adopt certain requirements. Can advance. So thank you. So the last minimum control measure is regarding pollution prevention and good housekeeping. So over the past year, the town has basically developed written operation and maintenance procedures for various municipal facilities, activities, and infrastructure. These are procedures that the town currently follows in some cases. In some cases, there are recommendations for improvements that can be made to improve overall water quality. One of the big initiatives is basically related to catch basin cleaning. So the permit basically requires that no sump for any catch basin ever be more than 50% full. So, and the town really hadn't been cleaning, you know, the town maybe was cleaning up to 20% of their catch basins annually. So this is kind of a big initiative. Now the town really needs to collect a lot of data and metrics that are going to inform their catch basin cleaning going forward to make sure their catch basins are no more than 50% full. EPA basically requires a catch basin cleaning optimization plan be put together. So the town has really been kind of working on collecting the data they need for that effort. I know they just recently awarded a contract to a contractor to come in and assist with catch basin cleaning, a lot of which the town had been trying to take on themselves. But this will allow the town to really get those metrics they need to try to figure out how quickly catch basins are filling up and what the cleaning frequency basically is needed going forward to meet the permit requirements. Another requirement, and this is related to some existing phosphorus impairments for the Mystic River, is that, you know, basically the entire town needs to be swept twice per year. And so the town's been doing that. They've also been kind of inspecting and maintaining their existing structural BMPs. So these different water quality structures that are currently associated with the drainage system, those are being now inspected and maintained on a regular basis. And I know the town was already doing some inspections, and now they've enhanced that to basically inspecting all municipal BMPs. And I know that's work actually the town has, I think, just started over the last week or so that they've been continuing. And the last item on this list is basically targeted stormwater pollution prevention plans that have been developed over the past year for basically the DPW facility and transfer station. So basically an inspection was done for each of those facilities, and recommendations were made in some cases regarding improvements that can improve overall water quality, as well as documenting a lot of things that the town already does that are good, that are in line with, you know, supporting water quality. So, and really part of this too is kind of getting the town into a habit of, you know, really inspecting these facilities on a regular basis. And that's really part of the whole requirement of the permit is to inspect those facilities regularly and make improvements where they're actually needed. And the last item I want to talk about just quickly was records and reporting. So as we had mentioned before, the stormwater management plan needs to be updated on an annual basis. Right now, we're currently working to update it, and it's actually going to be posted on the town's website for public comment by June 1st. And so, I mean, the town will be taking public comments probably throughout the month of June at that point. And then like I said before, year 2 ends June 30th. And then basically 90 days after the end of permit year 2, the town will have to submit an annual report. And that'll go to EPA and DEP, where the town will have to document kind of all their progress during year 2 of the permit. So there's definitely a certain measure of accountability that's required. EPA is reviewing annual reports, making sure the town is compliant with the permit requirements. And again, those annual reports are also going to be posted on the town's website. They're also posted on EPA's website, so they're available for review. So thank you all. Happy to take any questions that anyone might have.
Yeah, Jay and I are here as well if there's any questions for us.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the board?
I have one quick question. One of these slides, one or more of them, talks about phosphorus in the water, and I'm just wondering where that comes from, and what we know about that.
Yeah, no, phosphorus can come from a few different sources. A lot of times it's mainly from like fertilizers, can be like the breakdown of like yard waste, that type of thing. So that's why there's been definitely some targeted messages related to that for public education that EPA has kind of pushed forth. And that's why it's also important to kind of keep up with the regular street sweeping, catch basin cleaning. Those are all areas where phosphorus can potentially enter receiving waters. And there's
so
actually...
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the Arizona River is listed as impaired for several things, but phosphorus is one of them. So because of that, there's additional things that we have to do under the permit. Like Drew said, the additional street sweeping, the additional public education outreach that we have to do as part of that.
So just to let everyone know, Mr. Chairman, we've been doing twice a year street sweeping for the past 2 years. We do have a contract with the catch basins. We have our own catch basin truck, and we also just awarded a contract for about $45,000, which this company will come in and do 1,000. We've done well over 1,000, so we feel the end of this fiscal year, going into fiscal 21, we'll be in great shape to where we will have the majority of the catch basins completed to where we need to have them, and then maintain for the upcoming years.
Great. Thanks, Jay.
Great, thank you.
Well,
Can I just ask one quick question? I know the sorry to interrupt. I know that the this is a 5-year permit. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yes.
it is a 5-year permit.
Second, what is it? Are we anticipating that the EPA will issue another one, or that there'll be additional requirements or less requirements?
Yeah, so this is actually the second permit. So the first permit was issued in 2003 and expired in 2008. And then it took them 10 years to issue this permit. So there will definitely be another permit after this. I would imagine, as before, there's lots of appeals and public comments and disputes between various parties before these types of things get issued. So, I think hope springs eternal in the EPA that they'll have one ready to go once this one expires. But what happened last time was that it just got continued, right? So you were covered under the previous permit. But the town is required to have this, to fulfill these permit requirements in order to discharge our stormwater to waters of the U.S. So there will always be a permit in some form. And then I would imagine as time goes on, things will get more stringent. There's been a lot of work done recently by the Mystic River Watershed Association and DEP and EPA to look at phosphorus control measures in the Arizona and Mystic River watershed. So I would imagine that as we step forward into the next permit cycle in the future, that there will be additional phosphorus controls put on us, similar to the ones that have been put forth in the Charles River watershed, which I'm sure Dries has more knowledge of this, but some communities are spending, $10 to $20 million to comply with those phosphorus control requirements in the Charles River community. So it's certainly something that we want to, keep in the back of our minds going forward. And a lot of the projects that we've done as a town, like, building the huge infiltration system under West Side Field, like those are all projects that not only are they providing flood benefits, but they're also providing water quality benefits. So that's the type of thing that, regulators look upon favorably as well.
Beth,
Great,
how
thank-
is the, sorry, Amy, go ahead.
No, I was just saying thanks.
Beth, how is the West Side Field project going? I know we had quite a bit of rain the other day. I didn't know if that
Yeah,
was...
it's going well. The contractor's still completing all the work in the street, so the system's not fully operational yet because they haven't made all the connections in the roadway. And Jay, you might have a little bit more knowledge. I haven't been out there in a couple of weeks, but they're still working in Wildwood Street to make those final connections.
Yeah, good thing. The other storm we had the other night, we had no flooding, actually really no tree damage. So we fared pretty well for that storm. It's been a rainy spring so far, a lot of rain for the month of May and April, and we really haven't had any flood conditions. I got a call from the president of youth baseball. That A field looks like Fenway Park over there. It's really beautiful. The kids in the youth groups are dying to get on that field. Hopefully they will sometime soon.
Yeah, nice new sod.
It'll be ready to go, you think, if kids are able to go on it?
Not the field itself right now until they finish the road work, because they're still using that site as a drop zone. But I would think, Beth, probably another few weeks before they finish.
Yeah, I think they'll be done probably late June timeframe.
Great. Thank you.
This is Fred Yan. Could I ask a question?
Sure, Fred, go ahead.
So I heard that Mahoney's Garden Center mixes in the fertilizer with the water when they're watering their plants, and there's a lot of runoff. Does that water get into the system, or is Mahoney's able to recapture that?
So I don't have a lot of knowledge of the drainage system on Mahoney's. It's a private property, but obviously those long term, those are the types of things that we would want to look at with private property owners in terms of how their individual actions kind of impact overall stormwater quality.
Yeah, that's a lot of fertilizer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I was going to say too, I just wanted to clarify, there actually is a ban on selling fertilizers with phosphorus in Massachusetts, which is great. And that, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I think that was passed. But there's always the concern about, bringing in fertilizers from outside of Massachusetts that could have an impact too.
That's a good point.
Are there any other questions from members of the audience or for members of the board? Great, thank you very much. Beth, did you have anything else to comment on at all?
I don't think so. I just wanted to say a quick thank you to Doris and everybody at Weston Sampson for the great work they've been doing with us to make sure we're meeting our permit requirements. It's been a really good working relationship, so we're very grateful for that.
I second that. I also like to thank Beth and her staff and my staff and the water and sewer, Jimmy Gibbons, Mike Wise. As you know, this is a team effort, and it's going to be a long team effort, right, Beth, for many years to come.
That's right. Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Great. Thank you, everyone. I think our next agenda item is our state delegation is here to answer questions and give us an update on how things are going at the state level. And I think Representative Day is coming on, but I see Representative Lewis is here as well. Welcome, Senator Lewis. It's nice to see you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Chairman Betancourt. Nice to see you. Nice beard, by the way.
Thank you.
And good to see all the other members of the board and everyone. Thank you for all the good work you've been doing.
Thank you very much too. It's convenient for us that you're here on a pretty big day when so much has happened in the public forum as far as the layout at the state level of guidelines for how we're going to be proceeding. I'm not sure if you can give us a little bit of background. And I see that Representative Day has just jumped on as well. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Even rivals yours.
Yeah, I know, right? Thanks for coming in, Mike. I think we were just kind of starting on a general background of kind of where things are at the state level, and certainly a lot has happened since the last time that you've been in, and I know both of you have been very instrumental in that. So thank you very much for all your hard work. I've heard good things, especially from business owners to the Chamber of Commerce and residents as well. So thank you. It's been a real struggle for a lot of people, but I think your leadership has been really, really helpful to all of us. I don't know if Jason, if you wanted to kind of start off.
Sure, I can kick it off and then hand it over to Rep Day. And between the two of us, we are happy to answer any questions that any members of the board have. And thanks for your kind words, Mike. It's really been a team effort and kind of all hands on deck. I hope that everyone's doing well and your loved ones, are safe and healthy. And I do want to start out by thanking, our first responders in Winchester and all of our local healthcare professionals and everybody else who's kind of been on the, front lines of this pandemic and doing really amazing work. At the state government level, the way we've been approaching this crisis is kind of what I refer to as a two-pronged strategy. The first is to implement all the measures that are necessary to control the spread of the virus. And that is, as we all know, it's about saving lives. And so all the efforts we've made around social distancing and mask wearing and personal hygiene and very difficult decisions around our local, businesses and economic activity is really working. I mean, tragically, we've lost over 5,000 lives in Massachusetts. We've been one of the hardest hit states in the country, but it could have been even that much worse. And our hospitals could certainly have been completely overwhelmed if we hadn't taken all these measures and if our hospitals hadn't done so much to prepare for this, for the surge. So we must continue to be vigilant, and obviously the reopening plan that the governor started to lay out today does put public health first, and we'll continue to make sure that we don't see a resurgence or an uptick in the spread of the virus. The second strategy that we've been pursuing is really to do everything we can to try to mitigate the devastating economic impacts that the crisis is having on our residents, our businesses, our nonprofits, our municipal governments, and others. So let me just very briefly mention some of the different actions that the state government, and also we've been really heavily reliant on our federal government as well through this crisis. And big shout out to our congressional delegation. They have done some great work to really bring some bipartisan legislation forward, in Congress. So firstly, we've expanded and strengthened unemployment insurance benefits really to an unprecedented level. And we are actually covering workers who are self-employed and independent contractors, folks who never previously would have qualified for any kind of unemployment benefits. So that's been a critical safety net for, at this point, over 1 million people in Massachusetts. It's an absolutely unprecedented number who have been able to file and start receiving unemployment assistance over the last 8 weeks or so. Second has been support for small businesses and nonprofits. Most of that has come from the federal government, from the CARES Act, and we're very grateful for the small business loans and grants and other programs that, you know, it's obviously never enough, but it is helping. We've provided significant emergency funding for public health, including some money that went to the Winchester's public health efforts and other towns. Also for our hospitals, for nursing homes, which have been very hard hit by this epidemic, and also other healthcare providers in general. We have passed several bills, as you well know, to help our cities and towns with budgeting flexibility, permitting flexibility, postponing elections, spring elections and town meetings, which I know Winchester has availed itself of. And we'll say a bit more about that in a minute. We've extended the state and federal tax filing deadlines, put a moratorium on any evictions or foreclosures during this crisis. And by the way, that also applies to small businesses. A lot of people don't know, they think it only applies to homeowners, but also it covers evictions for small businesses that are having difficulty paying their rent. We've put in place some liability protection for healthcare workers so they can really do their job. We canceled any standardized testing, MCAS testing for the rest of this year. And the state education commissioner has also made some changes to the requirements around graduation, which is helpful to some students. And then we authorized electronic notarization for real estate transactions and other types of business transactions so that those sectors of the economy, would not freeze up. But we know there's a lot more work we need to do, working with with the federal delegation and with Governor Baker. So another important piece of legislation that is on the move relates to authorizing remote town meetings. I know this is very important to Winchester. Rep. Day and I are both strongly supportive of this, and the bill is now being reviewed by the House of Representatives after it passed the Senate. So we do expect, hopefully, to have that bill signed into law in the near future. And we know, obviously, again, that's important for the town's plans to hold spring town meeting. We also are working to finish up important legislation improving data collection and reporting of the virus. Different metrics by which we can understand its spread and severity in different populations, in nursing homes, so we can have much more transparency and much better focus our prevention and efforts to continue to contain the spread of the virus. We're also working on legislation to further strengthen our social safety net, and because we know how many families, again, have been hard hit by, by the virus and the economic impacts. We are working on legislation related to the fall elections. We have the September 1st primary, and then we have the November general election. So I'm hopeful we will be able to do the same kinds of things we did for the spring municipal elections in terms of more opportunities for mail-in ballots, like no absentee mail-in, extended early voting, other protections for poll workers. So that's a very high priority, I know, for Rep. Day and I think for our colleagues as well. So we can hopefully run the fall elections smoothly. People don't have to choose between exercising their right to vote and their health. I also have filed emergency legislation, and Rep. Day's been very supportive of this for expanding emergency paid sick time. There are some workers who've been helped by the Federal CARES Act, but there are others who don't. And if we're going to be able to really test and trace contacts and then quarantine people going forward, we have to be able to ensure they have paid sick time to support themselves and their families. So we're going to continue pushing for that. Final bill I'll mention is the Winchester Senior Property Tax Exemption, which seems like ages ago or prior to the pandemic. but we are have our eye on that. It's pending in the House, and so I'm sure Mike will give an update on it as well. But we are looking to still, get that bill onto the Governor Baker's desk as well. The governor did come out with the recommendations of his advisory task force today, and I won't say much more about that because I'm sure Rep Day will say more about that, and also if you have questions, we can respond to them. The only thing I will say is there is an opportunity for folks to provide feedback directly to the reopening advisory board. And so any municipal officials or local business people, they can send feedback obviously to me and to Rep Day, but also we encouraging folks to send feedback directly to the reopening task force. I just wanted to quickly mention the budget outlook for where we are. At least I guess some good news is we don't expect any budget cuts to the current fiscal year. That's fiscal year 20, because we are near the end of that. Even though the state budget has already taken a very significant hit, we think we can get through it with some federal dollars we've received and some of our rainy day funds. Unfortunately, the picture is pretty grim for the fiscal year 21 budget, which starts July 1st. We kind of had to throw out the original revenue forecast for next fiscal year, which was developed by the House, the Senate, and the governor late last year, because obviously with the impact of the pandemic, state revenues have taken a huge hit. Sales tax revenues are way down, income taxes are being affected, capital gains, and so on. So we really essentially restarted the state budget process in mid-April. The Ways and Means committees convened a hearing of economists and other fiscal experts, and their consensus was that the state's revenue will be somewhere between $4 billion and $6 billion less than what the consensus was just back in January for the next fiscal year. So that's a larger drop than we even saw during the Great Recession. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of a 15%, maybe even as high as 20% reduction. So that's pretty grim. Now we do have some ways to try to offset, at least partially, the state's rainy day fund, which we've been putting money away for the last decade or so, is going to help. And we're certainly going to draw down some of those dollars, but we do have to make sure we spread that out. We can't draw those all down in the first year because we don't know how long this crisis will last and how long the economic repercussions will last. The main area that we're looking for help, and that is still a question mark, is the federal government. We know that the Democrats in the House of Representatives on last Friday passed a major additional stimulus bill. It's called the HEROES Act, and that bill would help us tremendously. It has substantial resources for states, also for cities and towns, municipalities, and school districts. So that if that legislation were to become law, that would go a long way to addressing our fiscal crisis. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of pushback from the Republican Senate and from President Trump, so we don't know where that's going to land. But we're anxiously awaiting what will happen in that stimulus bill. So because that's still unknown, unfortunately, we have not been able to give guidance to Winchester or other cities and towns as to what you can expect for Chapter 70 or for unrestricted local aid. Obviously, those are the two big local aid accounts. Where I know from speaking to our Ways and Means committees, and I serve as the Assistant Vice Chair of the Senate Ways and Means Committee, we are working as fast as we can to try to put a consensus revenue number together and start, obviously, to assemble a state budget and to get you a guidance. But again, the reason we have not been able to do so already is because of the uncertainty about the federal, what additional assistance the federal government, may provide. So as soon as we have more insight, we will certainly send that to all of you. That's probably about it. I'll just wrap up by saying that, really appreciate the partnership that we always have with that Mike Rep Day and I have with all of you in good times. And, in a crisis like this, it's even more important that we communicate well and we work closely together, to keep our residents safe and to really do everything we can to support our families, our schools, our businesses, our nonprofits. And I, again, want to thank all of you, doing a great job. Lisa and her team have been doing an amazing job, steering the town through this crisis. We're very grateful for all of your hard work and your leadership. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. Mike, I didn't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about the reopening. I know that the governor kind of laid out everything a little bit more specifically today. And the one kind of question too is on Chapter 70. I don't know if either you or Jason speak kind of remain stable and what the outlook is for that.
Yeah, it broke up a bit there, unfortunately, but yeah. Good evening, everyone. Good to see everyone. I've seen many of you on these numerous Zoom conferences we've been having over the past 2 months or so. I'm trying to catch up to Fred on the beard. I don't know that I'll get there before this thing comes off, but I'll do my best to get him. Let me start, honestly, just by saying how proud I am to represent Winchester, especially during these times. The town, from my perspective, has pulled together, including all the residents, stepping up to make sure our neighbors are taken care of, certainly our family and friends, those at risk, including our seniors. Staffing and financing assistance programs like the ones run by the Council of Social Concern, what the Jenk Center has been able to do on a remote basis, town providing masks to our seniors and at-risk population, and then really just the population itself generally adhering to social distancing and the masking requests. I'll say that these efforts are saving lives. The sacrifices are not for naught. We've gotten through the first surge and we've learned quite a bit, I think, on the government level, both on municipal as well as state and national, frankly. I think we'll continue to update our approach on all those levels, but certainly on a governmental and societal level. I'll talk a bit about the governor's announcements today. But as I said, we've been on standardized almost meetings through the Zoom video conferences. I think that's why my eyes are completely shot now. But we've been talking with business leaders, our municipal leaders, state leaders, medical professionals, hospitals, you name it. We've been trying to keep the communication lines as clean and as clear as possible during this obviously unprecedented time. Senator Lewis and I have been on daily calls with residents, helping them try to navigate these new unemployment waters, both traditional DUA program, which is what you think of when you think of unemployment, as well as, and I think the Senator referenced this, the PUA program, which is a new unemployment assistance program for our 1099 independent contractors, our nonprofit employees, and our gig economy individuals who traditionally don't qualify for unemployment. We've been managing that through the Federal CARES Act and trying to make sure that we can keep people above water, frankly. I encourage anyone watching to contact me, contact Senator Lewis, if you're having difficulties with that. Often what it is, it's a computer glitch or a typo you put in. Our officers can help navigate through that quickly to make sure that the benefits continue to roll as they're intended to. These are certainly tough times. I know Senator Lewis referenced the budget. They're going to remain difficult for, as we begin this kind of new normal process, really until we get to a place where we can contain and diminish this virus. We're not there. We are starting to reopen, but I want to underscore that we have not contained the virus here. We haven't come close to that. Boston's numbers on a test pit showed about 10% infection rate. Whether that's true and can be sent out to the rest of the Commonwealth on a different level remains to be seen. But I'd encourage everyone to think of the reopening kind of as a pressure valve. We're going to lift certain restrictions, make sure it's working, and then lift additional restrictions if it is. If it's not, the valve's going to have to be closed up again as these, flourish of viruses occur, and they will. there will be outbreaks. They're going to have to be contained as we go. But I'd encourage folks to think of it in that manner. We're going to open in a measured way, making sure that public health is the top concern. We're going to be basing this on science and data, certainly not on emotion. We're not going to just reopen, as you've seen some of the states in the South do. Public health is going to be our primary concern. I know we need to strike a balance between economic security and caution, but I do want to underscore that, you know, the way we're looking at it is public health leads to public confidence, which ensures economic security and recovery in the long run. So without the first piece of public health, we don't really have a chance at economic health. So we're going to be operating with that in mind on the state level. And with that, I think you saw today, Governor Baker announced the state is entering into phase 1 of the reopening as of May 18th. I do want to let you know, the public health advisories remain in effect. Wear a mask, a face covering whenever possible if you cannot maintain 6 feet of distance out in public. Individuals obviously have to continue with their hygiene practices of washing their hands frequently, monitoring for symptoms, and restricting themselves to less than 10 people in gatherings. But as of today, assuming that these industries and businesses can meet the requirements put in place, construction sites are now authorized to be reopened. Places of worship are now authorized to be open with guidelines for social distancing. Manufacturing is now reopening. Our hospitals and community centers are now allowed to expand again for high priority preventative care, pediatric care, high risk treatments, high risk patient treatments as well. Assuming this goes as we believe it will, and the trend is a positive one, you'll see in the dashboard provided on a daily basis from the state, a green, yellow, or red, which are fairly self-explanatory. If we continue to trend the right way with infections, then we'll continue to open up more. The current plan is for May 25th to allow for personal services, hair salons, barbershops, pet grooming, and retail spaces to open up with restrictions. You're going to have call ahead for your personal grooming stuff and your pet grooming. There's going to have to be curbside provisions on retail spaces. Outdoor locations will start to open up as well, and employees will be welcomed back into the workplace on a 1/4 basis. In other words, 25% of your workforce can come back with social distancing, hygiene plans in place as well. Those will be put out, and I'd encourage everyone to visit mass.gov/reopening. That's where you're going to find a lot of the guidance for these sectors. There'll be more information placed as these phases begin to take effect. But what you should know for now is, as these businesses come back online, they're going to have to develop written COVID plans. They're going to be, enforcement's going to be combined between the state as well as our local officials. So our Board of Health will have a huge role to play in this moving forward. Each phase, you can kind of bank on counting at least minimum of 3 weeks. They could last longer depending on how this virus continues to spread. And it's going to continue to the opening committee or task force, whatever they call themselves now, is going to continue to partner with industry-specific individuals to get these protocols in place in advance of the scheduled reopening, so that these companies can get online, hit the switch, and go when it's time to go. I've got real concerns about childcare as we reopen. I think that's a major, blind spot right now for the governor's committee here. The governor today, Lieutenant Governor today, said that there's only 35% of our emergency childcare capacity taken, so that there's room there. But there's really hazy to little to no details on how and who can access those childcare services. So we're going to continue to press on that end, and we'll come back to let you know the feedback on that. Public transportation obviously is going to be important as we get back up and moving again. The masking requirements will continue to be mandatory on any public transportation, and that'll develop again as we move through these phases. Incidentally, I think everyone knows the MBTA commuter rail right now from the Lowell line, which services Winchester, between North Station and Anderson Woburn, is operating on a shuttle bus service while they do maintenance work on there. So for this week until the 25th, to get from Wedgemere or Winchester Center into North Station via the commuter rail, you're going to be doing it via a shuttle bus. Ridership is down, as you can imagine. I believe the number was 96% right now. So they took this opportunity to try to get some much needed maintenance on that line done. That's kind of a 30,000 foot view peek at the reopening. Again, mass.gov/reopening is the key to figure out what we're doing. We'll be posting things, Senator Lewis and I, obviously, as they develop. We'll be sharing them with the town. And I know the town's been doing a great job of pumping information out as well. On the budget piece, I'll underscore Senator Lewis's position or points, I guess, that right now it's a lot of uncertainty. The latest number I saw, which was tonight, was a $6 billion hole that we're looking at revenue collection. That's obviously a huge hole. Our budget, I think, last year was what, Jason? 42 billion. To sort of blow a $6 billion hole in the side of that sail, we're going to have to do some real work and real sacrifice, frankly, on the financial side coming up. I think Senator Lewis's estimate around 20% is the right one right now. That obviously remains to be seen how it finally comes into play. I don't believe personally, and Senator Lewis may disagree, but I don't believe we're going to have a budget done in time. We're going to be operating in a 1/12 budget moving forward. And I think it's safe to say that the towns will have to do the same until and unless we get that federal go-ahead on municipal aid. And on that end, let me just say, Massachusetts, even though we're not positioned well with the current administration, is positioned very well in Congress because of our delegation, as well as because of Congressman Neal, who is the dean of the Appropriations Committee, the chair of the Appropriations Committee down there. And so he'll be looking out for Massachusetts' interests. But we certainly recognize the strain on our municipalities, including Winchester, and are working on our end with the federal delegation to make sure these monies come back so that we can stay afloat. I think you heard potentially one of the, I think it was Senator McConnell's advising or encouraging states to declare bankruptcy. That's just wildly irresponsible and not feasible, not realistic. So more of a scare tactic than anything else, unfortunately, being bandied about in public. But I can assure you that our delegation is doing everything they can to make sure that these funds come back home. We will be, in turn, making sure they get back home here as quickly as we can. So let me wrap up and just open it up for questions for myself with Senator Lewis and just say thank you for everyone who's on this call and doing the work you're all doing.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jason. And we'll just take questions from members of the board or from members of the community. Anyone that has a question, just jump in, please.
I'll start. This is Jackie Welch. I just wanted to thank each of you, Senator Lewis and also Representative Day. You're so professional and so highly competent. It's just such an honor to hear you tonight and also know how hard you work for Winchester as well as the other constituencies that you represent. And while I don't have a question, partly because your presentations were so thorough and so helpful, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you because you really work so hard for the town, and it's also an honor, as you noted, to work side by side with our wonderful town manager, Ms. Wong. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jack.
Hi, this is thank you both for being here and for providing such a, like Jackie said, a thorough report from the state level. I just wondered if from a testing perspective, if there's been any discussion about rolling out a sort of more unified program of testing across the state. And also with sort of the more availability of the antibody tests. Is that something that the governor is thinking about at the state level?
Jason, you want to take that from a public health perspective, or I can certainly talk about it on the more general level.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I mean, I think, you know, I know that we're experts here, but my sense is that we are one of the leading states in terms of putting a lot of emphasis on ramping up testing and marrying that with tracing, right? So the key is, having widespread testing, rapid testing, so you get the results back quickly, and then you immediately trace the contacts, the close contacts of that individual had, in when they may have been infectious. And we've ramped up a major program there already. That was launched by the state probably at least a month ago now. And that, I think most public health experts feel is critical to keeping the virus in check. Because as we do start to open up more of the economy, even with all the precautions that Rep Day spoke about that, wisely will be in place, we are going to see, more people coming in contact, and you are going to see, more transmission. So being able to quickly identify when someone is positive, who else they may have infected, obviously then those folks would be, have to go into quarantine, either self-isolation or quarantine, really is the way to, stamp out the virus until we have a widespread vaccine available.
Yeah, Amy, this doesn't work. The reopening doesn't work unless we have widespread testing and tracing and isolation when there is an outbreak. And so unless that is ramped up even more than we have already, which the plan is to put into place, this is really going to be just a shot in the dark. So to do this in an intelligent way, we need that testing ramped up even more so than we have already.
Yeah, and Mike, what are the data points that the governor and his team are looking at in terms of reopening? And I know that there's obviously testing, but it's kind of a catch-22. The more testing you do, the numbers are going to go up. So I'm just wondering, are there other data points that the governor's looking at as they look to move into phase 2 and the other phases after that?
Yeah, I think it's a moving target, to be honest with you. We were on a call this afternoon with Commissioner Burrell at the DPH. She was talking about the data points that she's using here, and that it's an odd situation because that's going to be what's used to drive the reopening. And what metric we're using here is moving fairly rapidly as we understand more about this disease or this virus, and we understand more about where it is and where it isn't. As you said, the numbers are going to rise. The more testing you have in a certain municipality, the higher the numbers are going to be. It's not a matter of this community being walloped because of X, Y, Z. This is a highly communicable virus, and so the numbers are going to rise precipitously. But it's also a matter of figuring out what the right numbers are that we have to watch.
I know, hospitalization rates is a very key metric as well. Obviously, we're watching closely, the number of deaths, and also in specific populations. We're trying. That's part of the reason why we really want to focus and have better data, so we know exactly where the positive cases are. What populations we're seeing them in, so we can really focus the prevention efforts as well, in a much more targeted way.
And again, a lot of this is managing surges, right? I mean, we haven't stopped this virus. We're managing the surge, and we're trying to make sure our medical facilities aren't overwhelmed by outbreaks in certain areas. And so that's what, the hospitalization number is hugely important as we do this. And again, think of it as the pressure valve, allowing it to grow and shrink as we go through this.
Thank you.
So I think Chair Betancourt, you had asked also about our thoughts around Chapter 70, and
yes, thank you.
So Chapter 70, of course, being the main school funding program, it's the second biggest part of the state budget, actually, after Mass Health, which is our state's Medicaid program. So it's a very big part of the state budget. Of course, as you all know, after many years of work, we did pass the Student Opportunity Act last year. Governor Baker signed it at the end of the year. So we remain fully committed to updating the school funding formula per the Student Opportunity Act. What we don't know, though, at this point is how much of that new additional funding we will be able to provide in the next fiscal year, in fiscal year 21, because again, because of the drop in state revenues we're going to be collecting, and the uncertainty at this point around any additional federal assistance, that's what's preventing us from putting together a budget. And so that's impacting Chapter 70, just like it is, how much money goes to unrestricted local aid and for housing programs and for the MBTA and, mental health and substance abuse treatment, all these different things. That's why we have a lot of uncertainty around it right now. What I can say is for Rep Day and I, and this is true really for I think all our colleagues, Chapter 70 is every year is right at the top of our list of priorities. We know how critical it is to our schools and our municipalities. So we're going to do the best we can, I think, to, have as much money go to Chapter 70. I think it's unlikely it's going to be at the level that, we would have been at without this crisis, in terms of implementing the Student Opportunity Act. But we'll do the best we can. And I think, unfortunately, right now, we really just can't give you any guidance, as to what we can expect on Chapter 70. But as soon as we do have a better picture, we will definitely come back to you with that guidance. And one thing that I should just make clear in terms of if we don't have an annual budget in place before the start of the next fiscal year, and we have to do 1/12 budgets, it's not going to be what it was like in the past, where we essentially took the prior year's budget and we just took 1/12 of that, and so essentially kept spending at that level. What we will have to do a 1/12 budget at a lesser spending level because of the fact that the budget's so heavily impacted. So I don't know yet how much less we will, if we had to do that, in terms of what a 1/12 would be compared to this year. But as soon as we have more, information, we will certainly share that with you.
Great. Thank you, Jason. Are there any other questions or comments?
I was going to ask about Chapter 70 also, but I won't ask again. But I did want to mention, I wanted to thank you for all the work you've been putting on lately. I think a lot of people don't realize that in general, the legislative process is meant to be deliberate and slow moving to make sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. But the way that you have reacted in the last 2 months, the amount of work that you had to put in to make sure that all of those processes were followed, while also being able to react quickly with legislation that was completely necessary for the state and municipalities to be able to address this emergency as much as we possibly we have been able to. So I just wanted to thank you and give you recognition, because a lot of work goes behind the scenes that people don't usually see. So thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Let me just on that piece too. We have been able to work very cooperatively along, party lines, chamber lines, branch of government lines to get things done. We are reaching a stage where unanimous agreements aren't going to be possible anymore. And with that in mind, the House, and I believe now the Senate as well, has passed emergency rules to meet remotely to enable us to vote and debate and pass things with some objections from a safe manner. And hopefully, well, it's the first time I know in 400 years of the House that we've met remotely and voted remotely. It's a little clunky, but it's getting done. And so it's good news as far as, ultimately the budget goes, but certainly other issues that may not receive unanimous consent. So that both chambers are now working and we'll hopefully be able to pass even more meaningful and helpful legislation as this thing develops.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Senator Lewis and Representative Day. If there aren't any other questions, we'll say thank you again for coming in, and hopefully see you soon. We'll let you off early. I know your days start early and have a lot of Zoom calls in them. So I know this is the last thing that you needed tonight, but we really appreciate it, and the community appreciates it as well. So thank you.
Our pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks. Always great to be with you all. Thanks for the work you're doing.
Tell Pumpernickel we said hello, Representative Day.
Thank you.
The bane of my existence. Have a good night. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. I see that Town Council Mina Mercarius is here. So, and I apologize for jumping around so much. It's kind of just who's kind of coming into the Zoom and coming out. Lisa, was Mina here for any particular agenda item? The warrants probably, or that we should jump to?
Yeah, actually, we're here to talk about remote town meeting as part of the state of emergency. So unfortunately, the timing of any potential passage of legislation is narrowing. And then there's certain votes that we need to do as a town to authorize remote town meeting. Namely, we're going to have to vote on something this Thursday. And given that legislation hasn't passed as of today, I'm not sure it looks promising for the next few days. I've been working with town council on preparing the town going to court to propel the state to allow us to have remote town meeting. So I wanted to bring that to your attention today and have Mina outline the necessary deadlines of the select board and other votes and decisions that need to be made.
Thank you, Lisa. Mr. Chair, just to be brief and explain that, as you heard, the legislative delegation for the town is working to try to get what's been numbered S2680 passed. It seems to have stalled a little bit, and in your case, the current plan is to have town meeting on June 8th. If that is going to be done remotely, and if the legislation ultimately passes, working backwards from that, there are some steps you would need to take already or this week. One of those is posting the instructions and the notice of how remote town meeting would proceed. If the bill does pass, that would require 10 days notice. So that gets you back to May 29th. Prior to that, the moderator needs to request that this board approve remote participation at town meeting, and that he has tested the technology being used and thinks it'll be adequate to run town meeting in accordance with the various requirements that we talked about in the legislation the last time we met. So Peter Haley, the town moderator, is in the process of working on that. I think the plan is to have something before you either Thursday or at your following meeting, knowing that those steps all have to be completed by next week for a June 8th meeting. And of course, the more significant lift is making sure the process actually works and is useful and the technology is figured out. The town clerk has been dedicating a lot of time to that, as has Lisa and Mark, and working with other communities that are doing this to try to come up with the best practices. The towns that we represent that have representative town meeting, Winchester, Lexington, and Belmont, are all considering other ways to make sure that remote town meeting is authorized in case the legislator doesn't act ahead of time. There are some solutions after the fact to ratify actions taken that we've talked about, such as a sort of physical ratifying town meeting and special legislation at the state level, or hopefully the state legislation that passes covers it. But the other option is, as we were prepared to do with the town election before the state legislation passed, is to seek court approval. So we, as Lisa mentioned, have prepared a very simple verified complaint that asks the Superior Court to do that. I'm not sure if Lisa, you've had a chance to distribute that or circulate it, but it essentially recites where we are. The legislation is pending but has not passed. that although we believe remote participation at town meeting is already legal, some doubts have been raised about it that might make it difficult for bond counsel and DOR to certify votes taken at town meeting. And so we're asking the court to essentially verify that it is appropriate and legal to have a remote town meeting. And the order we'd be asking the court to issue is almost word for word what's required by the pending legislation, so that there's no need to redo things if the court says you can do it and the legislator says you can do it, that it's essentially the same process. Moments before getting on this call, the Lexington Select Board voted to have us file that if there's no more, if there's basically insufficient action on the state legislation the next day or two. And so we'd be looking for your feedback and on doing the same and working with the town manager. Yeah, and I see Lisa's just put up the draft complaint, which you'll see is fairly straightforward. It recites, it does not have a defendant. There's just one thing to be clear about. We're not suing anybody. We're not suing the governor or the legislator or anybody else. It's asking the court to declare that under these conditions, the town could hold a remote town meeting and to clarify that area of law, which again, it's my opinion you could do without legislation, but enough doubts have been raised about it that would keep bond counsel, in his opinion, from certifying to bond issuers that it's possible.
Mina, this is Amy. Have there been any other Massachusetts towns that have had any luck with this, or would we be the first to go to the courts for this?
That's a good question. No Massachusetts towns have gone to court for remote town meeting. One Massachusetts town has gone to court during this emergency to reduce the quorum requirements for an open town meeting. The town of Marblehead did that. Prior to the election legislation passing, Winchester was sort of saved by the bell on that, with the legislation passing just before we filed. Wellesley and one other community that I'm not recalling right now, I think it was another Metro West community, both got court relief to move the election. And we know that that has been done in the past, in past years, in non-COVID emergencies, weather emergencies, et cetera. So this follows the Marblehead and Wellesley form in terms of the kind of legal jurisdiction that we're asking the court to assert.
Mina, have there been many communities that have discussed the 1/12 budget option? I mean, essentially, our town meeting is going to be to approve the budget and a few other things. It's going to be very narrow. But I didn't know if that's an option that people have been considering.
Sure. I can tell you, and Lisa may have more information from town managers, from council that we work with and that we've seen, and also from some of the communities that we represent that are open town meeting and aren't really seeing an avenue for doing any other form other than delaying town meeting. There is guidance now from DOR on how it's going to follow it. The 1/12 budget, the good news is the legislation and the DOR guidance clarifies that it's no less than a 1/12 budget. So to the extent that the town needs to budget more, that's good. To the extent it needs to budget less, that may not be good. It's going to require monthly approvals from DOR. DOR set up a process, and at least for July, it seems to suggest that as long as the forms are properly filled out and it's properly presented to DOR, they're not planning to they're not planning to sort of second guess what boards ask for and say, you don't really need this much money. Can you do with less or more? So that's sort of the good news. The bad news is it's monthly. It's a monthly process. There's also some just logistical questions of how it works. One concern that I would have is it doesn't quite make clear what you do about expenditures that might sort of fluctuate month to month a little bit unexpectedly. For instance, a construction contract, if someone gets ahead or behind schedule, how you adjust on the fly. So there's some benefits to it, but there are some limitations. The other piece I would say, and we note this in this order, that it doesn't do obviously is account for things like the few things that you're doing outside of budgeting at town meeting, which include getting authority potentially to grant easements for the Winchester Center Station. That obviously can't be addressed through that process.
So from a town perspective, we are preparing to file a 1/12 budget, and we can file it and not need to use it. But just in case we need it, we thought it would not be a good idea to wait until mid to late June, when perhaps there would be a flood of budgets coming into DOR.
Lisa, just a clarifying question. It's 1/12 of the current year budget. It's based on the current year. Is that correct?
So you can put in escalators for contracts and COLAs, and it's kind of a misnomer. It's called the 1/12 budget because they're asking you to budget 1 month at a time. It's not that you take a number and divide it by 12. So if you take whatever number and divide it by 12, that's not a number that we have to use. We can actually just for the most part utilize what we or request what we need. I think with some of those exceptions about so let's say we anticipate that we need like a tenth of our budget in the first year because we have projects that we have to account for. I think the issue is not that we can't ask for more than 1/12. It's what happens if there's a project overrun, right? So let's say we request something that's equivalent to 10% of our budget rather than 1/12, and there's a need for additional expenditure. The question is then how would we get that additional expenditure approved? So it's one of those things where do you then ask for more than you need? And I think that's where Mina had said maybe the DOR is not going to be so specific as to question a particular line item and say, I think you put in a 10% escalator in here. So that's kind of the questions we've had. I've personally never done it before, so this is this should be interesting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I should say that the sort of idea for this is that I'm not aware that it's been tested in these kind of emergency situations. It's come up for regional school districts as a way to do things in the past, and the legislator has a method for using it. And the reason in both cases is sort of failure to arrive at a budget, as opposed to in this case where it's just there's a possibility you could all meet and agree on a budget. Just you can't get there. You can't meet.
So Mina, I've got a question for you. So if we're looking at a vote by the select board, probably by the 28th, then, or the deadline being the 29th. So I actually need to schedule a public hearing for the town meeting. So the two dates that I'm contemplating are the 28th and the 2nd. So is there any restrictions that I would have to, let's say, host a public hearing, perhaps even before a vote, if a vote was taken on the 29th versus the 28th?
You mean public hearing just on the issues that are coming on the articles that are on the town meeting warrant?
Yes. So what I usually do is I usually present the warrant and then, get feedback from folks. I wasn't sure if there were any restrictions on dates.
No, not at all. In fact, towns that have been delaying town meetings, some of them have had their public hearings done in February and March because they had early town meetings and they never got to them. Some of them are repeating them because things have changed, but no, the hearings are usually a matter of local tradition and transparency. they're not governed by the state law on the town meeting, and it wouldn't matter to do it differently. So there's really no difference between the 28th or the 2nd, other than to the extent you want to be able to share what the procedure might be if the vote, isn't
Okay.
done on the 28th.
Yeah. So that being said, though, if it's more a local tradition, there's a thought about using these public hearings as a way to help people sort of understand and test the technology. So I'm thinking maybe have multiple dates. So we're both sharing the warrant articles, and so they can sort of see it, using the type of technology that we would use for remote town meeting.
Yeah, and we're seeing several towns that are thinking about this do that, where they're just using it as a test place.
Great. Okay, so we'll have a vote scheduled for Thursday morning.
Okay, on filing or on the, I just want to be clear, because I think Lisa can direct us to go ahead if there's no objection to at least preserving this option of potentially going to court. And then you will need to get, we can work offline on sort of when the vote makes sense to have the moderator request a vote to actually have the meeting remotely.
Okay, so then just to think about this schedule, the select board. So Monday's a holiday. So basically the board will be meeting this Thursday. We haven't set up a meeting for next Thursday, and then the following would be June 1st, which would be too late. So I don't want to put the board on the spot, but so it's I think depending on what happens, it would either be this Thursday or we'd have a special meeting next week.
Whatever works, Lisa. We can talk about the schedule. I mean, it's good to, I think we have to keep all options open on the kind of town meeting front. So move forward with that. And then whenever you need a vote from us, like I said, I was trying to cut back on the Thursday meetings, and but if we need to kind of get together quickly in order to make that happen and push that vote forward, that's fine. Any day next week is that works for the board. We can do that.
And given that this particular court proceeding will actually not incur any additional legal expenses, I'm putting me on the spot here.
Yeah.
And I have the authority to kind of have them go forward. I don't know if you just want to maybe take a straw poll or just, voice your support for this, this method, if we need to go that route.
Sounds good to me. Anyone else?
Yeah, let's go with going to court as a backup plan, if nothing else.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
We got to keep Mina busy anyway, so it's
Yeah, I just need to find a third town to be at tonight, and I'd be busy enough.
exactly.
No, I appreciate that, and we will work with Lisa and keep you posted. And of course, to the extent that the legislation passes first, which is all of our hope, we'll pull back. But we'd like to have been over prepared twice this spring on that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Right.
Thanks, Mina.
And Lisa, is there anything else? I think do we need Mina here for anything else?
He jumped off, and the answer is no.
Oh, okay.
I'm still here, but if
Oh,
the answer is no, I will jump off. So
yeah, he jumped to the other side of the screen, I think. So that happens. But it's a moving target. But thanks. Okay, we'll just keep on moving down the agenda. I see Fred here. Mariano reminded me that Fred, you might be here for the farmers market, and I apologize for neglecting you. Under our consent agenda, we have a request under item 2 for the approval of the use of the Jenk Center beginning Saturday, June 13th through Saturday, October 31 from 8:30 p.m. to 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. So I think that you would need the board's approval here. So we haven't really talked recently about the farmers market. So this seems like a good option. I don't know if you had anything to offer, Fred.
There's been some complications with the senior association and the trust, I think. They really don't have anything scheduled now, but they want to leave open the possibility that things will open up later in the year. So they would like to keep their portion of the parking lot for themselves. So the map that I had sent to you used that portion of the parking lot, but left open a large section. And it's quite possible that we can shift the market over to the middle section of the parking lot and give the Jenks side of the lot back to the Jenks. So our process is we've looked at several different sites and they're to see which would be the best site to implement the health and safety guidelines to protect the vendors and the customers. And it seemed like the sites that had asphalt paving would be the best. It allows us to mark out the walking areas and the waiting areas and to set the parameters of the market to allow just the customers to walk through and not have anybody just come for a visit. So it seems like the Jenks lot would work very well for that purpose. Now, if the Jenks lot doesn't work for you, we could go back to the town common and it would be a little more work to try to set up waiting areas on the grass and to set up the perimeter of the market on the grass area of the common, but it would be doable. It would be our last resort.
Are there any questions from members of the board or?
So Fred, just so I understand, you would still like to use the Jenks lot?
It would be easy, yes.
But you're thinking that you would use the Jenks lot, use the Jenks lot, but not allow, but your area would be restricted to the part towards town hall and not take up the area right in front of Jenks, that you'd reconfigure this map that you showed us.
Yes. Yeah, so the entrance is on the map is off of Skilling Road. And it would be used as a walk-in currently, but we can switch that to allow cars to come into the Jenks side of the lot. And let's see, there is a square box there with an X to the left of the entrance, and we would use well, so actually I just changed my mind. The entrance we would switch the entrance to the Mount Vernon Street side.
Okay.
To be able to walk in, so there won't be any conflict with any vehicles that would try to get into the parking lot.
I mean, I would like to see the farmers market be able to operate, and I think that for to be able to mark a pavement so that people know very clearly where they should be walking and where it's safe to navigate through that way, rather than using the town common would be preferable under these circumstances. Just seems to be easier for people to do. So I'm in favor of letting you do this.
Any other comments or questions from members of the board?
Yeah, I mean, whatever it makes it possible for the farmers market to operate, I think it's a very important place for small growers and others to participate. And if this makes it easier to set up for social distancing than on the common, I mean, I'd prefer it to be on the common, but if this makes it easier to set up for social distancing, then I think this is a good compromise to be able to safely operate it. So yeah, I'm in favor of this.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the use of the town center / Jenk's parking lot area closer to Town Hall and closer to Mount Vernon Street for the 2020 Winchester Farmers Market season beginning Saturday, June 13th through Sunday, October 31st from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m.
Second.
All in favor, I'll take a roll call vote. Mariano?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
And yes, for me, the motion carries unanimously 4-0. Thanks, Fred, and keep us posted. Are there going to be any online ordering components with the farmers market as far as, kind of picking up, a box of, food from different places or anything?
Yes, we're in the process of setting that up. It'll most likely go through the farmers market website. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Fred. I don't know if we want to just finish the consent agenda while we're there. Or Sandy, are you here for the WinCam as well?
No, I was just here both for the human rights statement and for the farmers market. So thank you.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Sorry to make the two of you stick around so long. I didn't realize that.
No problem.
It was very interesting.
See how much fun you can have?
Yeah.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks. So we'll just finish up with the consent agenda, I guess.
So I move that we approve the use of the Jenk approve the closing of Skilling's Road from Washington Street to Main Street from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, June 6th, with Sunday, June 7th as a rain day to hold the Winchester High School graduation program.
Second.
I'll take a roll call vote. All in favor, Mariano?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
And yes, for me, the motion carries unanimously 4-0.
And I move that we approve the minutes for February 10th and February 24th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor, I'll take a roll call vote. Mariano?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
And Susan?
Yes.
And yes, for me, the motion carries unanimously 4-0. All right.
You want me to go over the WinCam?
Yeah,
stuff?
let's do that.
So we no longer need your vote. So thank you for considering the $50,000 appropriation to WinCam. The Finance Committee ended up doing a reserve fund transfer, so it's all set. And they should get their check in a couple days.
That's great.
Great. So we don't need a vote on that at all?
Nope.
Okay, great. Thank you. And the next item under our business agenda is the approval of the MWRA loan.
So just a question procedurally, do I need to read this entire page into the record? Is that the plan?
That is the plan. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Susan.
Sorry, Susan, that's, I gave it to you.
Yep, well, here goes. So I move that we take the following vote. I, the clerk of Select Board of the Town of Winchester, Massachusetts, certify that at a meeting of the board held May 18th, 2020, of which meeting all members of the board were duly notified, and at which a quorum was present, the following votes were unanimously passed, all of which appear upon the official record of the board in my custody. Voted that the sale of a $600,000 water bond of the town dated June 1, 2020 to Massachusetts Water Resources Authority, the authority is hereby approved, and the town treasurer or other appropriate town official is authorized to execute on behalf of the town a loan agreement and a financial assistance agreement with the authority with respect to the bond. The bond shall be payable without interest on May 15th of the years and in the principal amounts as follows. In the year 2021, an annual installment of $60,000. In the year 2022, an installment of $60,000. In the year 2023, an installment of $60,000. In the year of 2024, an installment of $60,000. In the year 2025, an installment of $60,000. In the year 2026, an installment of $60,000. In the year 2027, an installment of $60,000. In the year 2028, an installment of $60,000. In the year 2029, an installment of $60,000. And in the year 2030, an installment of $60,000. Further voted that each member of the Select Board, the town clerk, and the town treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing vote. I further certify that the votes were taken at a meeting open to the public, that no vote was taken by secret ballot, that a notice stating the place or method of accessing, date, time, and agenda for the meeting, which agenda included the adoption of the above votes, was filed with the town clerk, and a copy thereof posted in a manner conspicuously visible to the public at all hours in or on the municipal building at which the office of the town clerk is located, or, if applicable, in accordance with an alternative method of notice prescribed or approved by the Attorney General as set forth in 940 CMR 29.032B, at least 48 hours, not including Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays, prior to the time of the meeting, and remain so posted at the time of the meeting that no deliberations or decision in connection with the sale of the bond were taken in executive session, all in accordance with General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 18 through 25 as amended, and in accordance with the Governor's emergency order dated March 12, 2020, authorizing remote meetings during the COVID-19 related state of emergency if applicable.
Second that, or do we have to second that?
Yes.
We do.
Well
Yeah.
done, second.
Thank you, Susan. I'll take a roll call vote. All in favor, Mariano,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and yes for me. The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next up, I guess we'll just continue through to item 6, the state of emergency. I don't know if there are any updates or anything, Lisa.
So the town issued a reverse 911 earlier this evening, so hopefully you received it. So based on the governor's announcement earlier today, we just wanted to make sure that people didn't think that everything was now suddenly open and back to normal. So the gist of our reverse 911 today was simply to point people to the state's website about reopening if they had questions about it, and let them know that certain businesses and curbside retail was going to start on May 25th, again with guidance. Remind folks that the social gathering limit is still 10 people, that face masks or face coverings are required in essential businesses and where there can't be more than 6 feet social distancing. And then we also stated in the call that Our fields, except for, so not the playgrounds and not the tennis courts yet, will be open on May 25th. So that was the bulk of the call. Other things that we're planning to announce this week. So we plan to go back to normal transfer station hours probably next week. So once we make that final decision, we'll send out another call regarding that. We're starting work on reopening the tennis courts. It's going to take about 2 to 3 weeks. So we didn't announce the opening because we haven't figured out exactly when we can do that. But internally, we are thinking that when the courts reopen, we probably won't be putting out the porta potties. And we haven't been doing that throughout town because we think that those will remain an issue. And then we're still going through the various provisions in the governor's announcements today. There's a lot of very industry specific information. We're aligning a lot of the guidance on offices with our current phase 1 reopening, which will begin on the 25th as well. So a lot's happening around town. We've got a reopening meeting tomorrow, so I'm sure we'll hear from a lot of businesses about questions or comments they have. And we've already been starting to get a lot of calls. I know the Board of Health is very overwhelmed with calls with people who are potentially not reading the reopening guidelines, but calling us first and asking us to interpret it for them. We ask for people's patience. We ask them to please take a look at the reopening website. There's industry specific guidance. You'll probably read it before our Board of Health officials do and before I do. So please save your questions for, if there's any issues that you encounter. And there is a page specifically for, I think it's entitled when will my business reopen? So we're going to direct people there first. So if you guys get any questions or concerns, if you could actually tell people to go to my office and not the Board of Health, that would be very helpful.
Great, thanks, Lisa. The last item on our business agenda is the article warrants. Was there anything under that for us to discuss?
Let's see. Just making sure there haven't been any changes since your last vote. Let's see. So we're still working. They're not votes. They're more like updates. We're still working with the MBTA on who will be on the call and what they need to present.
Lisa, when do you expect that we'll have the motion book?
So we're working on that this week. So trying to think. Let me find out what we'll have for Thursday's meeting.
Okay.
So I had thought that there was something from Mary Ellen who had mentioned she was talking with the folks regarding the citizen petition, and they were potentially talking amongst themselves to withdraw. but I don't see any updates on that. So I think it stands that the select board is pushing that off to the fall. And then regarding the budget documents, so FinCom just sent over their updated yellow sheet today. It still has a couple areas that need votes, including updating capital numbers. So we're still working on that right now. I plan on jumping on their call on Thursday if they have any last minute issues. And I've got a meeting with them tomorrow just to finalize their 3-year projections. I don't know if there's any questions or concerns that you have on the warrant that you voted last week.
I don't have anyone else.
No, I'm all set.
Okay.
And I think that takes care of the business agenda. The only other item is I kind of cut you off in the middle of your report, Lisa, at the middle of the meeting. I don't know if there are any other kind of general topics for update or anything. There doesn't have to be. I just didn't give you the time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, the construction projects are proceeding pretty much on schedule. So McCall Middle School, there's no delays, so that's on time right now. The generator project at the Public Safety Building and Town Hall are proceeding as normal. That's happening in the next couple of weeks. The Wildwood Drainage Project, that the work in the field is complete. The work in the street is ongoing. We're putting out a 3-year bid package for the lead service lines. The Parkhurst project is still going on. Workers progressing for the roadway improvements at Main and Highland. We expect substantial completion by the end of the month. We received bids for the McCall traffic improvements. So we expect to issue an award letter and expect that will begin in a couple of weeks. We sent an award letter for the Waterfield Road Bridge repair projects, and we're holding a pre-construction meeting this Wednesday. We're working on a repair to the bridge railing by the high school. Tools preparing to update all their notifications that we're going to put on the website for all these different projects. So we've also got an award letter issued for the Manchester track improvements that should start in a few weeks. We've got the Abergina tree planting at Judkin Ponds. We've executed the contract that should begin in a couple of weeks and be completed by the end of June. As you know, that was funded by an earmark that was obtained by Senator Lewis. And we have engineering and permitting going on for the Lake Street Bridge projects, the Swanton Street Culvert project, the North Reservoir Dam, the North Reservoir Spillway, and the Phase 2 sewer improvements. So those are all in the works right now. That's it.
Great. And the other thing too, I think I saw everyone responded, but Sheila needs all of us to sign tomorrow at Town Hall. I guess they need an original signature. So don't forget. Were there any other questions or comments from board members? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I'll take a roll call vote. Mariano?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
And yes, for me, the motion carries 4-0 unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, WinCam. Thanks, Lisa. We'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Night.
Thanks.
Take care.
Night.